Shall we begin? I think people are here and it's 11:30. A couple more people might come in, and that's great. Not yet. Wait. Can't hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I hear you fine.
But not Joanna.
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Joanna.
That's strange.
Yeah. I'll write to her. Sorry. Everyone else. Can you hear me now, Joanna? No? Oh, this is a problem.
Joanna, can you hear me, Joanna? Can't hear anybody. Okay.
No.
She has headphone problems, maybe.
Better now?
Okay.
Yay. Okay. Let the good times roll. Okay. Great. Let me grab this print. Okay. Awesome. Welcome everybody to our mid-year meeting. I call this meeting to order. We don't need to do a formal quorum count because we're not voting on any matters that need a membership quorum, but I'm happy so many of you can join us. I posted the agenda in the chat, so if you click that link, it will, I think, open up a Google Doc in case you want to know. But I'll tell you the big picture. What we're going to do is we're just gathering now, and then we're going to have updates like 3, 4, 5 minutes from each council and committee, staff, etc. And then we'll talk about the year ahead, and we'll finish by 1. Okay, so chop chop, but I think it's all good news. So Reverend Hillary, would you like to gather us in this space and time?
Sure.
Thank you.
I offer a prayer this morning by Lila Ibrahim. It's from this wonderful book that many of you have heard me reference this year called Bless the Imperfect, Meditations for Congregational Leaders, and it is published by Beacon Press. So this is for us, for and by us, you use. And this is a prayer, as I said, from Lila Ibrahim, entitled A Prayer for This Gathering. So once again, why don't you just take a deep breath. Let go of all the stuff you can't control at the moment and doesn't need your attention, so you can be here. And join me in a spirit of prayer. Dear God, Spirit of connection and creation, bless this community gathered in hope and love for our world, for one another, and for ourselves. We gather here longing to create a more connected and more just world. Help us to speak our truth with respect. Help us to listen with love. Help us to be patient. Help us to be forgiving. Help us to know that here, as in all human endeavors, mistakes are inevitable and perfection is impossible. And, oh yes, remind us not to take ourselves too seriously. Amen.
Thank you so much. All right, good. Hillary, you are first up with a report, and then why don't you, when you're done, cue Gwen, and each person knows who comes next. So instead of my popping in between each, how about, and I'm happy to do that if it's needed, but I'd love it if you would introduce the person who comes after you. Okay.
Good plan.
Thanks.
All right. Good morning once again, my friends. Thank you all for being here this morning. It brings me such joy when we all gather together. Following my report, as you can see from the agenda, you will hear reports from Gwen, Sarah, and lay leaders from all of our councils and committees. Each person will offer a robust picture of what we've accomplished so far this year and what plans and goals lay before us. So as not to be redundant, rather than offer my own updates about the goings on of our church community, updates that will likely be repeated in greater detail by our lay leaders in a moment, I want to instead take a few minutes here to talk to you about 3 goals I've set to guide my ministry with you this year, the second year we've spent together, mostly on Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And let me begin by saying that I think of congregations as practice fields. Our church is the place where we can practice living into our values, practice our faith, and practice working through our anxieties and frustrations with a community that wants everyone to flourish. I speak often about what a gift it is that we are alive together and that we are companions to one another on life's journey. And I mean it. Not everyone has a spiritual community that actively calls them to embody their whole selves, actively calls them to expand their perspective, and actively calls them to seek and see the goodness of the world and their interconnection to all of it. But ours does. How lucky we are to be here. It's my hope as your minister that over time I can help to maintain and create the conditions that enable us to practice being our honest, open-hearted, whole selves here. And more than that, that I can encourage and inspire you to be fully engaged in this community. What does that take on my end? Well, it takes care and attention so I can learn who you are, which is no small feat these days. While I share your frustrations about operating in this virtual state, about being physically apart from one another, about not experiencing the fullness of our church here, I still have not been to a real coffee hour here yet. When I'm in the right state of mind, I can appreciate our slow and steady getting to know you process. We've met one another at a really strange, intense, and interesting time in our lives. And because I don't get to be with you all in real life on a regular basis, when I am with you, I really feel it. I really am curious about who you are, how you are, and what joys, sorrows, and concerns you carry. And so with all of that, here are the 3 goals I have set for myself, my ministry with you this year. The first goal, to continue to learn about who you are. I have a practice at the end of almost every single day when I sit down or take a walk with the dog, and I ask myself, what did I learn about First Universalist today? So please know, I am actively listening and paying attention to you with care and wonder. It's my hope that I will continue this practice for all of my years with you, because surely I will keep learning who you are. My second goal is to heal misunderstandings and reimagine the held beliefs about ministerial authority here. By way of my love for collaboration and collective problem solving, by way of my preference for transparency in decision-making processes and conflict resolution, and with my honest to God belief that we are all inherently, presently good and deserving of love, I hope to build your trust in my imperfect but wholehearted ministry and allow for new, joyful possibilities of our shared ministry to take shape and come to fruition. And my third goal is to deepen connections in our congregation. We've learned over the course of the pandemic that when it comes right down to it, what's most important in our lives is our sense of connection to one another and to something greater than ourselves. We've been forced to find innovative ways of connecting as long as I have been with you. And though I hope this pandemic ends ASAP, I also hope that we continue to explore, embrace, and engage all kinds of well-known and newfangled ways of being together and feeling connected to something powerful here. 3 big goals, 3 good goals, 3 doable goals, I pray. I offer thanks at this mid-year point to Sarah Whitty, our creative, compassionate, and committed board president. Thank you, Sarah. I offer thanks to our thoughtful, kind, and grounded executive team, Joanna Landsman, Vice President, Christy Hayashida, Clerk, and Debbie Starkle, taking on the role of Treasurer. Thanks to our wise and spirited board of trustees at large, Nancy Dix, Andrew Tonks, Stu Guernsey, and Joe Dreyer. I can't believe I look forward to our monthly board meetings, but guys, I do. I really do. And thank you to all of our lay leaders, too many to name, but all of you important and necessary to our church. Thank you to our tech crew, a rotating group of folks, including Kai Fast, Dale Shields, Charlie Horstman, and Marie Wendt, but most consistently and diligently, Joanna Landsman and Pete Tickcomb. Dearest tech crew, without you, I am not sure what our church would be at this point. You have made so much possible this year and last year. And thanks to our sturdy staff who have maintained not only grace, but a sense of humor in the face of so many wrenches consistently being thrown our way. Thank you, Andrea Meadows, our administrative assistant, Todd Roy, our sexton, Sam Chandler, our gifted music director, and last but certainly not least, Gwen Matthews, our Director of Education and Communication, who is the ideal, organized, punctual, pragmatic collaborator. Each week, Gwen grounds my off-the-wall, mystical, harebrained ideas in reality and brings them to life. Thank you, Gwen. You are the best. And I also am realizing I left out Mac Jones, who has been such a spark plug in our community. And I am so grateful to you, Mac. You are so much fun to work with. Thank you for being here and just being up for anything week to week. And thanks be finally to all of you. This is a frustrating, anxious, exhausted time, my friends. It's not how we imagined our congregational life or our personal lives would be in 2022. But here we are. This is it. It is this. This is the unique moment that we are walking together, working together, wondering, seeking, engaging, and connecting together. It is a gift. You are a gift. So let's keep on moving forward. And Gwen, I turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I think I'd call it afternoon at this point. My name is Gwen Matthews. I'm the Director of Education and Communications here at First View. And I'm happy to be greeting you today as I start my sixth, my Facebook memories pop up and remind me, year with First View. For some of you, 6 years is but a very short sojourn with this beloved community, since there are those of you who have been here 20 or 40 or 60 years. Within these 6 years, though, I've witnessed a lot of change and growth at First View. And I'd love to take a minute now to dive into congregational growth. The UUA tells us that growth is about many things and not just numbers, and specifies 5 types of growth that a congregation might see. So the first one is the one we probably all think of, which is numerical growth. So that's the number of people attending worship and programs, or the total number of members we have. The next type of growth is maturational growth, which is the growth of the spiritual maturity of each member and friend in our community. The next type of congregational growth is organic, a congregation's ability to maintain its health and engage the world. We have incarnational growth, which is making real and living our values in the world. And associational growth, which is joint efforts with other UUA congregations, other communities of faith, and the wider community. And I share with you these 5 types of growth because I think it helps us to better understand our own growth as a spiritual community and to take into account the ways we are growing and the ways we could continue to grow. So first, I want to talk a little bit about our religious exploration programs. It likely comes as no surprise to you that this pandemic has been rough on everyone and particularly on families. At First Universalist, we've felt and we've heard from families who are both present with us and who are kind of absent that it's been tough. It's been really tough. Children, youth, and families more than ever need the support and hope and light of a faith community. But we are struggling to find meaningful and nourishing ways to connect. Children and youth are largely burnt out on virtual meeting options, and our Maine winters can make it challenging to meet outdoors. Our neighboring UU churches and truthfully UU congregations across the country have been reporting the same concerns. But that said, it's not all doom and gloom. Christy Hayashida, our tremendous chair of the Children and Youth Art Council, will be reporting on our successes and our goals for the 2022 year. Kathy Mckenna, our superlative representative of the Adult RE Council, will also be reporting on the successes and goals of the newly formed Adult RE Council. So I'll leave them to that. The other piece I wanted to talk to you about today is communications. So part of my role at First Universalist is to bolster communication amongst the congregation and help ensure that members and friends have the ability to stay informed about church happenings. Primarily, as I'm sure you know, this communication happens via email with 3 weekly emails, a Wednesday Vespers email, a Friday Channels newsletter, and a Sunday worship email. There are also monthly RE newsletters and occasional e-blasts. In addition to email communications, our website is updated weekly. Our Facebook page and Instagram account are updated about once a week, and our YouTube channel is updated weekly. When we're able to hold services in person, then we can also get our fun Sunday morning news printed with our order of worship printed off. And when our church building is in use, we can have printed posters, all sorts of lovely things. My hope for communication in the future includes trying to keep up with the many ways that people prefer to stay in contact, including I would love to create a mass text or app system that would send important or urgent notices via text notification or a push notification through an app. So in conclusion, my role here at First Universalist, from my view, always comes back to growth, but not necessarily numerical growth. It is easy to fall into the trap that our collective work as a church is done well when we get so many likes on our Facebook page or when so many people show up to an event, but always looking to that type of growth can be exhausting. So thank goodness that we have this place, this community that knows that there are other ways that we grow and other metrics we include when measuring our success. Our growth as a faith community can be numerical, maturational, organic, incarnational, and associational. So with that, we are growing. We are nourishing each other. We are learning. We are coming up with innovative ways to stay connected. We are leading with love and justice in our Thank you. And let's keep growing together. Our next report is going to be Sarah Whitty as president.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share with you parts of my January board report because it kind of covered what I wanted to say, and then I've got a few other thoughts. You can hear me, right? Okay. Okay, there's lots of out with the bad kind of messages at the end of a year, and I'm sort of thinking February is the new January, so I'm still in the beginning of the new year. And it was an understandable sentiment at the end of the year because last year was hard, and we were at times lonely, frustrated, confused, and we just craved more human contact. I mean, we worried about healthcare systems and about our leaders everywhere. And I thank you, everybody who's sent love in card or spirit to Hillary and Gwen in any form, because and all our leaders, because we are so lucky to have you. We just find ourselves sucking it up day after day and month after month because we're always aware that other people have it harder, and it's exhausting to realize that you just can't deny your own fatigue, and so you need to hold yourself in love so you can help other people. And I guess I just wanted to stop at this mid-year moment and say thank you and wow. As we sing in Amazing Grace, through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. And so we can keep going. We can take care of each other and keep going. And here's a few ways that we're doing these things. We had a great take-home main farm supper, right? And a super duper little mini holiday fair. And so far, all of our Joy and Justice projects have generated money for social justice partners. Last weekend, almost 40 people participated in an incredibly nourishing retreat that Gwen and Hillary offered on care for the self and others. We got to know each other quite a bit better, and we oriented ourselves to the ways that we can listen to each other. It was perfect timing. We got the message again, we're not alone. We've also had some knock your socks off worship services, and I noticed that people are tuning in from away. When we travel, we don't want to miss anything. We don't want to miss Reverend Hillary or a lay group like the parents' small group knocking our socks off. And the message again and again and again is, how are you? How can we help you? You're not alone. Every single committee and council is alive, you guys. I mean, do you remember when they weren't? They were alive with hope and sweet energy, as you will hear in their reports today. We've come a long way from a few years ago. I'm so relieved, so impressed, so grateful. So, what is a church that sometimes can't go to church? Well, now we know it's just people. The church is people with all the same hopes and needs as before. And we're finding new ways to worship and grow and learn and share and nourish and support each other, no matter what. So thank you for everything you do to be part of the community. Thank you to the long time and our amazing new members who step right in. Thank you to the listeners and all the helpers and the cookie makers and letter writers. Someday we will sing and laugh in our sanctuary again. It might be soon. Someday we'll cook great dinners and tell great stories around real candlelight. If you don't feel strong and brave about any of that, it's okay. We're here for you. It's really an honor to be in the flow of spiritual community with you all. So in the months ahead, let's keep doing 5 things. I made a little list. Imagine ways to connect with each other, especially families with children. Actively appreciate our minister and staff. Show up when you can. Keep an open mind about risk and safety. And remember, we don't all see things the same way. We are you. And let's always assume best intentions and hold each other in the warm light of compassion. Those are my 5 hopes for the year as the president. And our next report is from Joanna about the COVID safety team. Thank you.
You're all hard acts to follow. So here's another big question. When can we have in-person worship services again? Alas, there is no simple answer yet. But on behalf of the safety team, which is Ben Tupper, Christy Hayashida, Gwen Matthews, Reverend Hillary, Nancy Dix, Sarah Whitty, and me, I can tell you this. We're meeting regularly. We're taking this all very seriously. We look at the data, and as things have evolved, especially with Omicron, we're reevaluating the metrics a little bit. For example, looking at hospitalizations versus number of cases and so on. But if you're like me, you may be very tired of being bombarded with numbers and stats and this and that, and everything changes every 5 seconds. So I will not get into the weeds here regarding data. The unfortunate truth, though, no matter how we slice it, is that we are still in the severe risk level, and we must continue to consider what is for the good, not just of our church community, but also for the community at large. Many of you may be aware that the Maine Council of Churches issued a plea to all Maine congregations on January 4th to commit to holding their services virtual only in light of the Omicron variant running rampant and the increasing strain on our hospitals. And we took that plea to heart, and we've complied, not just because we were asked to do so, but also because it was the right thing to do and in accordance with our own policy. Reverend Hillary has been in recent touch with the executive director of the council, Reverend Jane Field. And although no follow-up statement or recommendation has been issued by the council, and maybe won't be, Reverend Field acknowledged that churches must also consult with their own denominational leadership for input and guidance. And that is also what the safety team is doing. So please know that we are considering the emotional and spiritual health of our members and friends in this process. And so while data is guiding us, we're taking all these other needs into account. It's such a confusing situation and tiresome. But I say this with all kinds of caveats. We can be hopeful that we've hit the peak, that the surge is subsiding, and that the numbers will come down, and we'll find ourselves once again in a lower risk level where in-person worship and other building use will once again be a reality for us. We can hope. And as I said, the safety team is meeting regularly. Our next meeting is February 9th, just a little more than a week from today. And perhaps with hope, we will have some more positive news to share at that time. I will now pass it over to Lisa Patterson on behalf of Leadership Development.
Good morning. The Leadership Development Committee, its main responsibility is to assist the board, councils, committees with recruitment of new members, identifying a slate for the Board of Trustees to be voted on every annual meeting. Assist Reverend Hillary, if there's a need for employment filling. We were so happy to be able to assist in bringing Mac Jones on last year. We're in January. So this is an ongoing responsibility. It's something that the committee is always doing and always committed to. That's just something that's always there, and we're happy to do that. A couple of things that the committee has, that was a project that had a start and an end date, so to speak, is we developed a guide or a manual for the board. We had a lot of new members that started at the beginning of last year's church time. So we created a manual for those folks to know what to expect, it's gonna be like, what the requirements are, or the hopes and whatnot. So everyone received that binder last year, And then we do have an updated employee handbook that is presently with the board for revision and discussion to decide if there needs to be any changes before it's rolled out to the employees there, being Mac and Gwen, et cetera. And then hopefully someday we'll get back to being able to help Reverend Hillary do a in-person retreat and a get together. And, you know, that's always on our to-do. And unfortunately, the last couple of years, it's been crossed off because it was not an in-person and not been able to do that. But that is something that is always on our list that we'll be assisting with with the church and Reverend Hillary. And that is it for the Leadership Development Committee. And next is the Worship Council and Andrew Tonks.
Thank you, Lisa. So as she said, my name is Andrew Tonks, and I'm here to offer you a brief update on the Worship Council. Can you hear me all right? Okay. So who are the members? The members of the council are the Reverend Hillary Collins Gilpatrick, Minister, Lily O'Brien Gilbert, Chair, Kai Fast, Kelsey Goldsmith, Joanna Landsman, and me, Andrew Tonks. We are a collaborative and creative group, and we enjoy our work. What is that work? Well, the goals we set for 2021 that we're continuing in 2022 give you the basics. We're pleased to say that we reached our goals in 2021, and we see our work in 2022 to deepen and widen the implementation of these goals, which are to create Sunday services that unite and vitalize our community, continue to offer hybrid worship options, not only as we continue to navigate the pandemic, but also into the future. Use UUA and Soul Matters resources to strengthen, inspire, and diversify our programming and approaches. Make space for a diversity of voices and wider participation from our community and beyond. Consider the spirit of the eighth principle throughout, weaving justice into the practice of our faith. And use worship as a platform to explore and explain the meaning of all our principles. What are some of the things that we did in 2021 that we feel especially good about? Well, we offered in-person, virtual, hybrid, multi-generational, indoor, outdoor, all welcoming, worshipful programming for all. Whew. We maintained a meaningful series of virtual Vespers services every Wednesday evening, providing needing breaks for Hillary with volunteer lay-led services. We provided lay-led Sunday services as well on the once-a-month Sunday that our minister is off. The majority were led by worship council members, and we recently added small group led and guest minister led services. Guest musicians filled in when our music director was sick or on a break. And under very trying circumstances, we developed creative approaches to solstice and Christmas services and a Boxing Day experiment. As I said, our 2021 goals will continue to guide us in 2022. We'll also continue the activities I just mentioned. In arranging lay-led worship, we will strive to make space for a diversity of voices and a wider participation from our community and beyond. So if you have any questions, concerns, or suggestions, please contact one of our members. We're very open to ideas and volunteers. If you'd like to lead or participate in a service, please let us know. Thank you very much. And I pass the baton to Christy Hayashida for religious exploration.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So I'm Christy Hayashida. I'm chair of RE, and our team consists of Gwen Matthews, Mckenna, Emily Bolger, and Leslie Chambers. And we're always looking for more help or more ideas if anyone is interested. So as Gwen said, it was a pretty challenging, it's been pretty challenging for us. All of the members either have their full-time jobs or they volunteer. And then obviously they have children. So it's hard, difficult to get together, let alone trying to come up with some really good ideas to keep people engaged when it's so hard for families already during COVID. But we have some good successes from this past year. We are mainly looking at programming, building connections with families, and then also outreach to community and justice work. So some of the things that we have accomplished over the year is Gwen completed an OWL training at the Maine Coast Waldorf School. We offered in-person youth groups in Children's Chapel when it was safe to do so. We had some pretty purposeful activities that included community building, social justice, and learning as well. We hired Mac Jones as a Children's Chapel teacher, and then later on as a youth facilitator as well. So that's been a real bonus. That's been a real add. We have offered take-home activity kits to families. We continue to offer programming and events, less online, or we did continue to offer programming and events, less online, and that we're learning less online is preferable. But we also did a lot of in-person meeting. We had a beach day cleanup in May of last year, walking tour in Portland on Black and Indigenous history, and that took place in September. And then we've made progress on developing a children's library. Gwen wrote a grant last year in order to get some funds. And then we're in full communication with the board and Buildings and Grounds as far as use of that space, because everyone uses that space. So that's what we did last year. What we hope to do this year is we hope to partner with other organizations or neighboring churches, like, for example, the church across the street at First Parish. We'd love to have at least like one event with them. It seems like kids show up when there are other kids there. And so if we could combine a little bit here, that might be a good thing for us. And that way also that increases our connections with the community. We want to increase justice work opportunities for everyone, for children, youth, and families. One of the ideas that we've thought of is invite all ages to get together and just make something like dog biscuits or cat toys, and then donate those to a local animal shelter. We want to offer easy ways for families to join in on activities. So, for example, maybe having an open mic night or pizza night, and of course, all this would come under, we'd have to be safe with this. We won't, do it at the height of a surge or anything. Other examples are maybe a movie night. We provide popcorn and treats, and then selling those, and then that money goes to a nonprofit that's decided upon ahead of time by the kids. And then we also hope to offer this year, as it's safe to do so, service and/or learning trips for youth groups. So hopefully COVID will behave, and we can go forward with some of these things. So that's it for me. And next is Kathy Mckenna with Adult RE.
Yay, thanks, Christy. That was really fun to hear. So the big news about Adult RE is that we exist. It's a new council that grew out of the Religious Exploration Council. A couple of us said we'd be interested in encouraging hosting more opportunities for adults to get together and talk about big ideas or particular things that interested them. So last August, Ann Turner and I got together with Hillary and Gwen and started to brainstorm a little bit about what this council, sub-council, might be and how our work would be integrated into the work of all the other councils that are doing amazing things and committees at our church. So it took a little while to figure out exactly what we would be and what sorts of things we would be doing. But we have decided to just try a lot of things. These are uncertain times, and it's unclear what exactly would be most beneficial and interesting to the church congregation. We started off with a survey to ask you all what kinds of things you'd like to attend and be interested in. We haven't gotten much in the way of a response because, well, COVID and hard to reply to these things, and nobody knows exactly what they can do and when. So we continue to sound out our fellow congregation members for the kinds of things you might be interested in. And in the interim, we're just trying a lot of different things. So we tried, I thought quite successfully, a discussion of a book that had something to do with the Faith in Action Committee's work this fall to educate us more about our Wabanaki neighbors. So we had a great book discussion, and we worked with members of the Faith in Action Committee to watch a video. That was pretty neat. This month, Andrew Tonks is leading a really intriguing four-part course on the origins of early Christianity, which has gotten quite a lot of interest and seems to be going very well. That's pretty neat. Going forward, we're going to try a few other things. Hillary has very generously offered to host twice a month these drop-in discussions of media that we are all going to just contribute to the list of interesting things that we're watching and seeing and want to talk about with our fellow church members. Try that second Tuesday, Thursday of the month for an hour, get together, talk about interesting things that you're reading or listening to or thinking about. That's pretty neat. We continue to think about different ideas. The group right now, as I mentioned at the beginning, is Anne and me and Gwen and Hillary, and we recruited Andrew and Dale, but we would love some more input and some more members. If anyone is interested in leading an adult RE activity or just coming to meetings, please let us know. We would welcome that. We are in this creative phase trying to figure out what we will be as we grow into more of a concrete thing. So that's where we are. Anyway, I should turn it over to somebody else, but again, if you're interested in adult RE, however broadly defined that is, please let me know. I think the next up is Ben Tupper.
It's time for the Buildings and Grounds report. So the Buildings and Grounds Committee has really just one overarching mission, and that is to help all of us in the congregation be responsible stewards of these two older buildings and the grounds. So that's really, very mission driven, like that's what we do. And mostly we try to do that by taking care of regular maintenance needs as they arise, as we're capable, and also to build a platform for informing the board and the congregation on longer term needs for these buildings and the grounds. So I only have a couple of things to share with you. We've had a good year, and joining on this kind of newly formed committee, because you probably know this committee used to be known as the Committee of Pete Titcomb. But this year we've changed the name to the Buildings and Grounds Committee. And that includes Charles Herman, John Boat, John Williams, and Joe Dreyer is our board liaison, but he's thoroughly in the mix on the committee. And of course, Pete, who we may have to dip in bronze at some point so we can have him forever. This year kicked off with a very generous donation of somebody with a really long-term vision to the Buildings and Grounds Reserve Fund of $25,000. And so these are funds that we can use for not operational costs, but things that, go beyond a year. They're things where we have to take care of this for the long term. So these are the kinds of funds that we need. And thank you to that very generous donor. And I certainly invite everyone to think about doing the same. We're always willing to accept funds for the buildings and grounds work. So I do want to share with you an example of that I think it's just almost generational in a way. A number of you know Jane Cleaves, who passed away a number of years ago, much beloved, a little bit crazy, and a lot of fun to be with at First U. And she left some money for upkeep of the kitchen. And as you know, our kitchen is kind of an amalgam of newer and older items. She really wanted to have all the kitchen surfaces be something we can have clean and that they're workable. So some of the money she left and accepted by the Board of Trustees for the purpose of replacing the countertops that were in the kitchen. They had linoleum on them, if you remember, or something like that. And so Dorothy McAloney has held the torch for us and pushed through getting those replaced, which took a couple of years of getting measurements, getting estimates. And thank you to Dorothy for being persistent on this. And then Dorothy passed the torch to John Williams, who is a master carpenter and a church member. And he voluntarily installed these. And if you haven't seen them, they're beautiful. Don't touch them. Don't get them dirty. They're lovely. Let's keep them just this way. But thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, John, and thank you, Jane. But that's the kind of continuity and investment that is constantly required. So just thinking about this year coming up, we certainly want to continue this kind of the routine maintenance. We're doing a pretty good job of that. Still, Pete is our point person. He does the yeoman's duty on it. But we did have a Saturday morning where a bunch of us got together and we just kind of powered through a lot that's on the to-do list that worked very well. But we're also trying to simultaneously think in longer terms. And we want to make sure that we're setting up the congregation, not just the committee, not just Pete, the congregation for a long time scale. And you can interpret that in short, in terms of like 5 years or 10 years, or you can get long, 20 years. But it's important to be thinking these through because, as you know, time and weather and gravity continue working on these properties, and we have to keep working on them to keep them suitable for us to use them for the purposes that we do use them. So John Vogt and Pete Titcomb have been working incredibly hard on a documentation system. As you know, we have to download Pete's entire brain because he's got so much captured in there. And there already is this massive buildings and grounds manual, but there's so much more that needs to be done just at the practical level. How to do this, when to do this, why to do this. And so John and Pete have been working on that diligently. And we're trying to make it persistent. So it's online, but it's shared and owned by the church, these documents. So as you also know, and as we're reaping the benefits of it right now, there's been a lot of effort over the last couple of years to make sure that our telecommunications infrastructure is up to snuff. So providing these services, and a lot of people work very hard on this. And so now we can stream and we can do special events and that kind of a thing. So that too will have to keep changing, requiring maintenance and upkeep. And it also requires expertise, and we've been tapping into the same people over and over again. So if you have an interest in supporting this and participating in helping deliver content digitally, please step forward. It's never too late to step forward and say, oh, I'd like to help. And then the coming year, we really want to, if we can, while we're doing all this other stuff, is to start really working on what are the long-term plans for maintaining these properties. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts. Could we draft a real plan of what it's going to cost and what we need to do and when we need to do it and da, 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 da. That's really important to have. It's a roadmap. We need that roadmap so that we don't get surprised and we can move ahead thoughtfully. So, and part of that, of course, is we need to really think about the environmental footprint of the church and providing services. And we're trying to knit that in. That's a balance of of what resources are required now in order to implement these things versus what are the benefits over the long haul, not just for our church community, but for the wider community. Okay, I think that's it. I'm now going to turn it over to Marge Titcomb, who will be singing the Stewardship Jingle.
Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Your Stewardship Committee members are Cindy Guernsey, Tom Settlemeyer, Jen Civiello, Phyllis Jones, Frank Reed, me, and board members Joe Dreyer and Debbie Starkle. We serve you and the board in the spirit of the 8th principle. We keep watch over our church financial health. We launch fundraisers for justice, and we connect with our renters, including Village Nursery School and our new Mainers next door. Despite the pain and the loss due to the pandemic, we do indeed have much to celebrate, and I will highlight 3. First, we collaborate with the board and Faith in Action in creating our 2 justice events, the main farm supper and the mini holiday fair. Together, we selected the recipient of the funds, which we raised joyfully for the Wapanaki Garden Project, and Stewardship led producing the events. The events have been so much fun without the stress of funding church operations. And instead, working joyfully to share our love in the spirit of justice, whatever realities would unfold. Second, just this week, letters have gone out to everyone who is financially contributing. A thank you email to our 34 perennial contributors. Ask me if you want to join them. The annual so-called tax letter went out by snail mail of all calendar year donations. And 60 progress emails went out showing the status of your annual campaign commitment payments funding our current church year. And third, we as stewardship support your treasurer, Debbie Starkle. One of our tasks is to prepare the regular financial reports, and I'm pleased to report that at the midpoint of our church year, we are basically on budget, the budget that was approved in June at the annual meeting. If you'd like any details or if you have any specific questions, please contact Debbie or me. But here's a brief sample of the highlights. So our annual campaign, as you probably remember, last February raised $150,000, which is 70% of our whole budget and is sufficient to cover all salaries and benefits. $87,000 of that, which is nearly 60%, has already been fulfilled. The other income, which includes rentals and the gift cards, half plates, and the endowment income, is a tad below the budget due to primarily low church rentals with the continued pandemic restrictions. Expenses are a bit below budget as well, which is a good thing, and it's just a bit under in each expense category. The bottom line is that we have $16,000 in available cash, which is our usual amount, and $65,000 in designated funds. And that includes $23,000 in the outreach fund and $28,000 in the building fund, which includes the gift that Ben just mentioned a moment ago. Turning to the remainder of this church year, we will continue to fulfill our goals with an attitude of abundance. Jointly with the board, we will very soon launch the 2022 annual campaign to fund our church year, which begins July 1st. How we do is up to us together, the congregation. We hope to raise about $160,000 in commitments because we anticipate there'll be some increased expenses, primarily in salaries and benefits, as inflation continues to settle into our lives and COVID is still a big unknown. We are counting on each of us to consider our personal touchstones with First Universalist and declare in February our thoughtful intentions of financial support. When the total is known, we will prepare a draft budget for the board's consideration and ultimately your vote. Also, we expect to continue working with the board and Faith in Action to offer the community building fundraising justice events we are known for. And speaking of Faith in Action, Marge Titcomb will now speak to Faith in Action. Our council members are Reverend Hillary, me, Jane Mackla, Sue Ellen Bordwell, Pete Titcomb, Steve Thomas, and Dale Shields. Our goal is to create a groundswell of enthusiasm for justice through advocacy, education, and action. I offer a few examples of what we've been up to since July as we embrace First You's endorsement of the 8th principle to engage together to dismantle oppressions and build beloved community. We offered the Portland Black History Walks, discussion and book groups, and hosted the Wabanaki Reach mapping event. With guidance from Musan and intense work of Jane Mackla and Sue Ellen Bordwell, we have actively encouraged educating and promoting legislator contact to support LD 1626 to recognize tribal sovereignty. We are following through on our joy and justice theme with our stewardship committee. Our congregation made and sold 150 Main Farm suppers as a takeaway event and held the mini outdoor holiday fair featuring primarily soups and jams. And those were both joyful First U community events to support the Wabanaki Garden Project. A huge thank you to everyone who made these events possible. So far this year, our focus has been on racial justice, living our second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We now move to climate justice, living our 7th principle, respect for the interdependent web, as our theme for the rest of the church year. As many of us already realize, these two themes are closely related. We are planning book groups and discussions on climate justice, more walks and talks with Seth Goldstein, and a visit to the Wabanaki Garden in Brunswick. We will continue advocating for LD 1626 to recognize tribal sovereignty, and we will continue to be guided by Musan in advocating for climate justice legislation. We're also exploring ways to advocate for Unitarian Universalism in general and First U in particular. And there are 2 takeaway fundraisers coming up. Another Main Farm supper on March 5th, make sure that gets on your calendars, and a gala quality boxed appetizer assortment that will be available on April 9th, Cindy's birthday. We are working with stewardship and the board to identify the recipient for the justice dollars that will be raised, and any suggestions you might have would be welcome. Big thanks to each and every one who is joyfully on this justice path with me. Next up is Ryan McKisson for Congregation Connections.
I've forgotten the words to the song, but I think that we ought to have a motto that is, we're all just walking each other home, which is from Ram Dass. And that's, I feel like the heart of the church and the heart of the Congregation Connections Committee. The members of the committee are Brenda McKee, Lisa Williams, Sandra Stark, Janice Tooker, Cindy Guernsey, Martha Hutchinson, and me, with lots of support from Gwen Matthews. Reverend Hillary also attends a lot of our meetings. And as everyone else has said, we would welcome anyone who would like to join with us on this committee at any time. Our successes from the past year include fostering growth and increased connection to community through new members and new contacts, providing support to other church committees and councils. For example, we worked on fundraisers with the Stewardship Committee and on worship services for the winter solstice. We also orchestrated events where people could be together in person, such as the fall picnic at Winslow Park. We provided all new name tags for members and friends. And throughout this uncertain year, the CCC has stayed flexible and able to quickly pivot when needed. Our plans for 2022 include continuing to follow through with new friends, reaching out, and offering connection. And when it's safe to do so, we hope to reinstate circle suppers and to offer picnics or other ways to connect in person outside of worship services. We also plan to update the church directory with the goal of revising it on an annual basis. And that's the end of our report. I'll now toss it back to whomever.
Okay, that was awesome, amazing, incredible. Let's have a big round of applause for all the committees. Oh my gosh, like just so many people behind each one of those reports, people who care and people who make a difference. That was fantastic. And please, everybody who just spoke, send me your report. I didn't say that before, so this may come as a surprise. It doesn't have to be fancy. You could even take a picture of scribbly notes, but that will help the board as we think about our goals in the year ahead. So please zap that to me like right now, maybe while I'm talking, or in the next 15 minutes. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of news about upcoming events. You've heard about a lot of plans. There'll be some opportunities to get into the kitchen, I think, see those new incredible countertops and do some work there. Be in touch with Cindy if you'd like to help with the main farm supper or the gala event where we're going to create these gorgeous little appetizers. We can call it, there's an app for that, right? So there'll be other events that come into focus for different reasons, and just, be on your toes because all ideas are welcomed. And if you ever have an idea or you wonder, what to do about an idea or a question, just bring them on, talk to Hillary, call one of us on the board, send me an email. Thank you, Ben, just sent his report. Ding, 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 winner, chicken dinner. And we'll see how to get the best connections going for you. There's one more big event I want you to know about in the coming year, and this is body, mind, and spirit. This calls your whole self, okay? This is for Reverend Hillary's installation service. We're thinking June 5th. Woo! In this service, we, the congregation of First Universalist Church and Reverend Hillary, along with the guidance and blessing of some luminous guest clergy, will enter into a covenantal bond of shared ministry and service to our mission. This is a big day, June 5th. Woo, it's going to be gorgeous. Okay, the board will be organizing an installation team, ad hoc kind of thing, just get together for a few months, plan this beautiful event. We're going to work towards the event, and that includes preparations and logistics and hosting and music and dollars and words and rituals, and of course, an incredible party that follows. And I'm picturing flowers, cookies, dancing. We need every kind of fun and every kind of joy. So stay tuned for ways that you can be involved in that. And that will be, again, June 5th. Save the date, okay? Everybody is welcome to this hullabaloo. I'm so excited about that. And then in terms of our annual campaign, this is the last item on our agenda. Marge told you about our goals. And before we have the big reveal of our, thank you, Ryan, for your report. Awesomeness. Before we have the big reveal of our video, I'd like to tell you 3 things about the campaign timeline, because these are slippery things, okay? They get away from us so easily. Okay, number 1, this is it. We're kicking it off right here, right now. Okay, kickoff, campaign underway. Number 2, for the next 5 weeks, give or take a day, you're going to see our messages and reminders all over the place as we gather up our commitments from all members and friends. So soon as you're able, soon as you've given it your moment of thought, go to the website and make your commitment. Okay, and then call us if you have any questions or trouble with any of that, any glitches. So number 1, we're kicking it off. Number 2, we're open for your commitments for the next 5 weeks. And number 3, our Stewardship Sunday is the last Sunday in February. And after that, as Marge said, we go into budget mode. So that's the spirit of the campaign, is that we're trying to keep it moving, keep it pleasant and friendly and accessible. I think most of us really like this way that we can just go to the website, click, click, click. Nobody's going to call you up if you do that. You know, if you don't do it, we might call. But it's just so straightforward. And I've got more messaging in the video. I'll let that speak for itself. I just like to say that I'm really amazed and grateful at how well we've stayed in touch throughout the pandemic, how we've grown, all the different ways we've grown, how we've gotten to know each other better and kept up with our financial commitments. Thank you again for everything you bring to this spiritual home, even when it's a virtual space. It's still church, and it's so real. Okay, Joanna, are you going to be ready in a sec? Okay, ready to run our video. It's 5 minutes long. Okay, so we're going to end on time. I don't even know what my favorite part is. It's the faces, the voices, the words, the music is going to lift your heart. Okay, thank you, Emily Dix Thomas, for sending this file. I don't have words. Thank you so much, everybody. Here's the video. Hope you like it. Hi, everyone. This is Sarah Whitty. I have the honor of serving as the president of your board of trustees. Welcome to our 2022 annual campaign. You may be here for community, spiritual growth, religious exploration for your kids or yourself, social justice, music, Joanna, I don't
poetry,
think we can see
solace,
it.
and also because it simply feels good.
Can't see it. Sorry about that, everybody. We couldn't see the actual video. We only heard the voice.
Sorry, let's try again.
Okay, thanks.
Not sure what happened, but we'll try again.
Click another screen.
Yep.
That's it.
Here we go.
Hi, everyone. This is Sarah Whitty. I have the honor of serving as the president of your board of trustees. Welcome to our 2022 annual campaign. You may be here for community, spiritual growth, religious exploration for your kids or yourself, social justice, music, poetry, solace, and also because it simply feels good. These are some of the touchstones of joy and justice. According to research, the sacred act of giving also makes us happy. 3 things must be in place, though, for your generosity to feel joyful: connection, trust, and free will. Connection. Do you feel connected? Are you seen and known and heard at First Universalist? Trust. Do you have confidence that your giving will be spent in alignment with your principles? And free will. Are you giving from a place of gratitude and gladness? If your answers are yes, your commitment to the touchstones of joy and justice is the way to express yourself, to walk the walk and grow your joy. We are here for each other and for that vision of beloved community. On behalf of First Universalist, thank you so much for your faithful commitment.
The Unison Affirmation begins with, "We are united in seeking to increase love with justice." And for me, that was a sign that I was in the right place.
Declaring first you as my spiritual home is my touchstone.
Spirit of life in its many forms is a touchstone for me.
Our partnership with Gepesh in Transylvania is a touchstone for me.
Sharing joys and concerns is a touchstone for me.
Mac's enthusiasm and her talent are a touchstone for me.
I can be my authentic self and be truly accepted for who I am. That is a touchstone for me.
Oh, nature is a touchstone for me.
The joy of love and the peace of equanimity are touchstones in my life.
Gratitude for being in each of my small groups is a touchstone for me.
Reverend Hillary's warm and welcoming presence is a touchstone for me.
The 8th principle is my touchstone. It offers us a UU framework for shaping justice.
The free and fearless search for truth while building the beloved community is my touchstone.
Vespers is a touchstone for me.
My touchstones are kindness, generosity, and service. And this is what we do at First Universalist.
It's my church, it's my people, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. Thanks.
My friends, simply put, if we are what we give, then we are a congregation of love. And I'm not just talking about that kind of love that makes us feel nice inside, though we have plenty of that kind of love here. I'm talking about a big love, an unflinching love, a love that looks forward and wonders what can be, and then tries to make something happen. Ours is a love that welcomes us to be who we are, with all of our strengths and growing edges, all of our questions and ideas, all of our joys, sorrows, hopes, and fears. And how generous we naturally are with our love here. And with awe and thanks, my friends, I bless this spirit of generosity that arises so naturally in our congregation. And today and all days, I celebrate you, each one of you, and all that you need, all that you have, all that you love, and all that you give. You are faith in action. You are the thought and movement of the spirit of life at work in the world. You are you. Good, generous, beloved, and integral to our church and world. Thank you for what you love. Thank you for what you need. Thank you for what you give. Thank you.
So there's the end of our video, the end of our meeting. I don't think there's much more to say because, you know, thank you, Hillary, for putting all your thoughts down there for us. That was so special to feel the connection. So anybody would like to stay on? We'll just chat for a few minutes and deep gratitude. Anybody who needs to go? We're done.
Sarah, thank you for making the video, which was no small feat. It was beautifully done, beautifully edited. Sound was perfect.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
My pleasure.